Giants with Darren Waller and Hunter Renfrow on injured reserve. Who's the Kansas City Chief wide receiver not named Juju Smith-Schuster that you need to start in Week 10? And is one NFC East running back all of a sudden every week fantasy relevant once again? Plus the 15th place team owner in the FFPC main event, John Donadio, hops aboard to talk about his approach to Josh Allen this weekend, why he's benching Michael Pittman in his 15th place team, and much more. We've got a great show for you. Farrell Elliott is here. I'm Eric Balkman. Stick around. Your high-stakes fantasy football hour starts now.
Stand the pressure. I've seen greater men than need a lesson.
Broadcast live and heard around the world, you are now watching the most entertaining hour of radio on the planet. Welcome to the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by MyFFPC.com with your hosts Eric Balkman and Farrell Elliott. The High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour is your home for analysis from the best players in the world. And now, because no one else was available, here are Eric Balkman and Farrell Elliott.
Solace in the scripture. Are we not all our father's sons? I became a man. Nobody ever told me what a man was.
Thank you so much, Rob. Greetings to all of you Balkaholics and Farelliacs. Welcome to the latest episode of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by MyFFPC.com. I am, of course, your slightly above average host, Eric Balkman. Bring in my co-host, the definitive commissioner of fantasy football, Farrell Elliott, in just 1 minute. Coming up on tonight's show, we're going to give you our advice on a pair of sleeper tight ends for those of you scrambling who have Mark Andrews on bye, as well as what to do with Allen Robinson in Week 10 too. Plus the 15th place team owner in the FFPC main event, John Donadio, will join us to talk about Treylon Burks' impending return, whether Najee Harris needs to find his way on your bench this week, and much more. If you want to connect with us, you can do so at Twitter at HSFF Hour. I am at Eric Balkman, and always check out Farrell's Kentucky Fantasy Football State Championship at KFFSC.com as well. You can post on our Facebook page, facebook.com/HSFF Hour, and you can also email the show at highstakesfantasyfootball@gmail.com. If you have any questions for us, send them in now. We'll try to get to all the questions, all the tweets, all the Facebook posts, all the emails in the fantasy feedback segment coming up later on in the show. Thanks to our audio engineer, my best friend Bryce, and of course, our producer and mutual friend Rob. Want to remind you that the FFPC Weekly Challenge, Week 10, is filling up. No draft, no salary cap. Just choose your 10 players or your 12 players if you want to play in the classic format with kickers and defenses. Obviously, the 10 players is without only one player per team. So you can only, if you pick this weekend, if you pick Alan Lazard, you can't pick Aaron Rodgers. For those of you maybe going for a hyper contrarian approach, $35 will get you in. You can also play with a $200 entry fee as well. In fact, you could play against 9 other people for $200, and then the winner of that will get into the FFPC main event for free next year. Yeah, that's right. You're playing for an FFPC main event entry, and all you have to do is beat out 9 other people. It's a simple, easy game. You can do that at myffpc.com. Check out the RotoViz High Stakes Lowdown that we did this past week with Steven Ranigan, a guy who is in 3rd place in the Football Guys Players Championship, a guy who's cashed at least 3 national championship grand prizes in the last, 6 years, something like that. So had a great opportunity to sit down and talk with him. rotoviz.com/podcast, or just check out the FFPC YouTube channel that you're watching right now. And you can get it there. Remember to like, subscribe, comment, share, and get notified of all the impending videos coming up. And by the way, there's a lot of them coming up next week. We'll get into that in a little bit. We will get into Farrell Elliott right now. Welcome in the definitive commish of fantasy football. Good Friday evening to you, man.
Buddy, what a great lead in. What wonderful information you're giving. I would love to win one of those. I would love to enter a team on Sunday morning and realize that on Sunday night, I have won an entry into the main event. That's good stuff. I might have to get involved with that. I was thinking, while I was backstage here where only the hosts can see me, and I was kind of head bopping my way around our Quad Holler song. And, I'm glad only you could see me because I look pretty stupid doing this.
Can anybody not bop their head to that song? It's great.
Oh, that song barely made the album. And, it's Shadwick's life prior to the Quiet Hollers was that of pretty much a frontman for a punk rock band. And that song has elements of punk to it.
Mm-hmm.
And and I love it, and it's a fan favorite. So good, yeah. But I look like a bobblehead with I look like if you combined a Q-tip and a bobblehead, and it's not a good look. So.
By the way, Easter egg on that song. If you want to go into YouTube and check out the video, press it by the Quiet Hollers. You might see a cameo by somebody who is on this show tonight. Always good stuff. It brings a smile to my face every time it comes up in my YouTube feed. Fantasy Flash. Let's get into it tonight. We'll kick things off with Ezekiel Elliott, who is listed as questionable for Sunday's game against the Green Bay Packers at Lambeau Field, of which I will be in attendance for. Very excited about that. It sounds like he's going to go, Farrell. The question is, how much is he going to handle? And knowing how the Cowboys have used him in the past, knowing how successful Tony Pollard has been this season, if you have Elliott on your team, are you nervous about starting him as one of your flex options based on a presumed maybe lesser than normal workload?
I am not. I love my rosters where I have both these players available.
Mm-hmm.
It gives so many great options during the bye week. We were beaten down because I believe, Balky, that you were edging a little closer to me in the appreciation of Ezekiel in midsummer. And then Dave Turp and Armani came on and just blew us up, but then I realized they're from Philly. And they're going to blow up anything they can. But in deference to them, we're at the midway mark. Ezekiel, what I love about him is he catches balls and he plays hurt. Recently, he's missed a game because he's hurt and he hasn't caught any balls, only 6 catches this year. But what we do have in the Cowboys, unlike most teams in the NFL, the Cowboys, when they say, they come out and tell us what they're going to do. And that he's going to be a huge element of their team. And it is, we expect him around the goal line to do so. He has 4 rushing TDs this year. I think Pollard works better with Elliott on the field. I think Pollard is a change of pace running back. As everyone knows who listens to the show, my appreciation of Darrell Henderson. Darrell Henderson flashes brilliantly when he is not the main piece. It's always more difficult to be the guy than it is to contribute to the other guy. I think that's what we see with Pollard. I'm rooting, both of them get a good matchup this week against a defense that has lost some of its revolutionary will to win. Balky is how I would say that. So there's my take on it. I'm going to play Ezekiel if he's going to play, unless I have something that I can really count on that I know is a lot better.
And I think the other thing we have to look at when we're talking about this, like we're talking about it in a vacuum, but obviously fantasy football not played in a vacuum. And it is played this week on a week where you have several teams on bye once again. Yeah. You will not have Michael Carter. You will not have Ramondre Stevenson. No Joe Mixon. Kenyon Drake, who obviously had the big game last week. He's out of action because of bye. You may not have the opportunity to have the luxury to sit Ezekiel Elliott. I would be a little bit nervous if he was my second running back. However, if I was playing in the Football Guys Players Championship, the FFPC main event, I have no problem putting him in as one of my flexes. I think he'll return good value on that too. Now,
Balky, there'll be more people that play Drake on a bye week this week based on what he did. They actually played him last week.
Yeah, that's true. You could very well be right on that. Make sure you're still setting lineups, ladies and gentlemen. Yes. Make sure you're doing it. Raiders, what the hell, man? In a span of about 3 hours, I think it was Thursday, Hunter Renfrow goes on injured reserve with an oblique injury. And this is after Darren Waller, like almost right after Darren Waller gets placed on injured reserve. Now, Renfrow, it's not like he was crushing it, but obviously I was excited I don't have a whole lot of Renfrow, but I was excited for my teams when I saw Waller went on IR. I was like, okay, now Renfrow bumping up in production. He's probably the number 2 receiver on this team now behind Devontae Adams, or number 2 pass catcher. And it was very short-lived. So now the question is, as we move forward here into week 10 and really beyond, what are our feelings on the rest of the pass catchers in Oakland, or in Las Vegas, beg your pardon? So
Okay.
I will say this: Foster Moreau this week to me in the main event in the Football Guys League, I think he's kind of a fringe flex. I would definitely would not start him as my tight end, but I think it's had like at least like 18 or 19 targets over the last 3 weeks. So Derek Carr is looking at him at least. But as you point out, Farrell, targets are worth nothing in fantasy, and he hasn't exactly been turning it into fantasy goodness. So like a fringe flex for me. Mac Hollins is more interesting to me because when the Raiders were down pass catchers earlier this year, Mac Hollins went ham. He was awesome. And I would look at Hollins as, again, I think you can sneak him in as a flex this week. The Las Vegas Raiders this week at home against the lowly Indianapolis, now Jeff Saturday led Indianapolis Colts. So I think Hollins, I think you could sneak in as a flex. Moreau maybe, but I'm a little bit more nervous about him.
I think Moreau last week was about 6 points. I had naturally hung on to him all year. I had to get an extra defense, so I put him on the waiver wire only to learn that he is now the starting tight end. And I think he does have value as a starting tight end. And Balky, yes, a flex when you need it, it could be the guy. Mac Hollins, I'm a big fan of. But, Mac Hollins has had difficulty getting on the field. He's been largely a special teams player, a big contributor, good in the locker room. Guys like him. He's loose. He's a good football player, but he's yet to ever eclipse that as a starting football player. And I think that Kansas City game most recently was a reason why. He starts the game with a 60-yard pass downfield that bounces off his chest plate. It was an athletic catch, but that's what he's there for. He's an athlete. He was wide open. He got separation in the end zone, 4 yards, running laterally across the goal line, and he got tangled up in his own feet and fell down. And Carr either threw an incomplete or an interception. My point is that we get a mixed bag with Hollins, and yes, he's given us a 30-point fantasy performance this year. But if you tried to lean into that, you're probably now averaging about 8 or 9 if you continue to play him. I will bargain hunters who find themselves in issue might wish to take a look at Keelan Cole. Keelan Cole is buried on the Raiders depth chart, but a very good player, respected player in the league. Caught 55 passes as recently as 2020 with the Jags, and is the pride of Louisville, Kentucky. So let's give him a chance. He's a long strider, runs good, crisp routes out of the slot position, and will give a target to Carr, a dependable target who his Carr has been lacking those this year. But yes, it's rough. It's difficult to imagine a game plan. And could two teams collide on the schedule, Balky, that are more dysfunctional as to what we thought they would be than these two this weekend? And
40.5 is the total on that game. Raiders 4.5 point favorites at this moment. Yeah, very, very interesting.
That's it. And last night's game, I believe, was 40.5 too. And how many points were scored?
One, like 38, 39.
I think 41, maybe. I don't know.
40.
Ask Young
exactly,
Hoku. He's still trying to figure out. Never mind. But I think they put 40.5 in Vegas when they really don't know. They scratch their heads. 40.5.
It could work. It definitely could work. Farrell, now I caught up on it today. But did you see the first episode of Hard Knocks in season with the Arizona Football Cardinals?
I did not.
Okay.
But I would love to hear your review of it.
So just a few things I want to touch on. This was a heavy Cliff Kingsbury episode. Looked at him not only as a high school player, college player, but college coach. And so we got a lot of the backstory. Got kind of a mini tour of that awesome house that he's got in the desert. That was pretty awesome. Budda Baker, hard not to root for that guy. Really the type of player that you love seeing on the field. But the interesting thing I wanted to bring up, and there's some DeAndre Hopkins stuff on there too. But Kyler Murray, we knew he was battling this hamstring issue, but you actually get to see him in the game complaining about, my hamstring's tight. And then he fumbled in that Seahawks game late. He said he couldn't open it up, and I wonder if he was thinking about the hamstring, and that's why the ball was able to be plucked away on that first down run he had late. And he was limping around. He was talking about his hamstring after the game, and now we find out today that Cliff Kingsbury is calling Kyler Murray a game time decision here against the Rams in Week 10. He did practice today, so that's good. And you would say, okay, well, Balky, it sounds like he's probably going to play. Well, yes, he probably will. But Farrell, it's a 425 game, and these are always tricky for game time decisions, right? So not only do you have to kind of figure out what you're doing, like I have one league where I have in Kentucky, actually, where my two quarterbacks are Tom Brady and Kyler Murray. I'm not messing around with it. I'm playing Brady and just a PSA, 9:30 a.m. kickoff from Munich, Germany, between the Seahawks and the Buccaneers. Get those lineups in early. But I'm playing Brady in that game. I'm not messing around with it. And I don't really know if this should really affect the way that we handle players like DeAndre Hopkins or James Conner or anybody like that. Definitely not Zach Ertz. But does this injury affect the way that not only you're operating with Kyler Murray, but maybe a guy like Rondale Moore?
Oh, definitely. I wouldn't play Moore this week. Yes, you take a player, any quarterback's going to have difficulty planting and throwing with this type of injury. You add the aspect of the scramble game, that and the variety of things that the quarterback does here to extend the play, and it becomes a real big problem. Extending the play is usually when he hits Ertz. So I see it being a problem for Ertz as well. If there is another option at quarterback, go to it. And that's league wide, because you don't know if he tries to play and can't play. That's the biggest disaster for you.
Mm-hmm. You cannot afford to take a zero.
I almost would rather. Yeah, that's just it's just bad business, and it's unfortunate. And you know what? The Rams really needed to catch a break, and this might be it.
Yeah.
So,
we have John Donadio, the 15th place team in the FFPC main event, hanging out in the green room, snacking and drinking some bottled water. We're going to bring him out here shortly. But in the meantime, the last thing I want to bring up, Mecole Hardman didn't practice. I believe he did not practice again today. Abdominal soreness is what he's officially listed at. And Hardman, as much as I've ripped on this guy, 13 passes for 153 yards and 3 touchdowns over the last 3 games for Kansas City. He had 8 targets in the win over, 9 targets in the win over the Titans. He caught 6 of them for 79 yards and a touchdown. With no Hardman, Farrell, is it as simple to say, okay, I'll play Kelsey and Juju Smith-Schuster. I'm not messing around with anybody else. Would you want to be in business with Kadarius Toney as a second flex in the Football Guys Players Championship this week?
I started him last week, and it was a great start. And then, he disappeared. There's so many receivers in this offense that the name brands seem to be what you want to stick with. And however, Hardman was becoming a name brand. He is a player that my dear friend and great fantasy player, Rob Fetcher here in Kentucky. Fetch always has been a Hardman fan, and with the trade of Hill, when Hill moved out, the player most logically to benefit from that was Hardman, and it's interesting to me that we're seeing that come at this point in the season. But I think the rest of the way, Hardman is going to be a contributor to fantasy lineups. I think he's going to do very well, and we're going to see receivers, the ball peppered to receivers that Mahomes can count on better, can count on. His go-to guys. I think we're going to see Mahomes lock in on some of those guys as we move into the part of the season that we're seeing now. So, yeah.
I think, too, I mean, what the KISS method, right? Keep it simple, stupid. You're trying to pile up wins. You're trying to pile up points. Is it worth taking the risk of Kadarius Toney this week or players like Kadarius Toney? Maybe it is, considering your team, and I think you have to consider, because each incident is unique, and you can't, one lump piece of advice on Toney does not fit all. So I think if you are looking for some kind of extra punch, some kind of potential upside, Toney could be your guy. But I think more often than not, when we make decisions like this, hoping that this guy hits, he does not hit. And
I tried it last week and I was not rewarded, and I had very little, and I wasn't going to go to the waiver wire and try to find someone to improve on Tony. But yes, and man, the best ballers have to be thrilled though. When they drafted Tony, they had high hopes for him, and then the draft comes and Robinson goes there, and everything they've been through. What a quickening pulse rate they must have had as when Tony goes to Kansas City, and he's going to have a big game before it's over. He's going to have a 2-touchdown game, catch a lot of balls, run for a lot of yards. So it sure the hell is a difficult thing to figure out when that's going to be and start him in your lineup.
Real quick story on this. My wife is gone this weekend, and I was putting the kids to bed last night. I had the NFL Network on, Farrell, for the pregame of the Thursday night football game. And as I got the kids asleep, got them to bed, went out to the living room, and I saw the game had already started. And I said, wow, this game it's moving along pretty good. 8 minutes already off the clock. The Chiefs already have a field goal, and they got the ball back. Wow, okay. So I was tucking in, watching it for 2 or 3 minutes. I'm like, hey, Kadarius Toney, another catch. Boy, 2 weeks in a row, you got off to a quick start. Maybe this will be big here. And then I'm freaking out because I'm like, wait a minute, I got Edwards-Helaire all over the place. I don't think I started him in time for this game. Did I screw up? And then I go to the KFFSC.com, like, why does Kentucky have him down for playing the Jaguars at 1 o'clock on Sunday? I'm watching them right now, and that's when it hit me. Never flip the channel over to Prime Video to watch the Panthers and the Falcons. Heart attack, crisis averted, and I enjoyed the game last night. So it ended up working out. Hilarious stuff. Now, for
Balky, there's something hilarious. We might need to go to some news monitor and check and make sure there's no breaking news. We have no comments in the comment room.
That is weird.
I don't know where the professor is. I don't know where the Dizzle is. Trevor Holt's probably off somewhere having a beer. I have no idea where everyone is, but
I don't know either.
We're winging it, buddy.
We are winging it. If there's anything that drives the comments, it's bringing in a really super intelligent, successful fantasy football player. Without further ado, let me bring him on. He's been grinding high-stakes fantasy sports since the early 1990s. He's amassed more than a dozen 5-figure finishes, but has yet to achieve the ever-elusive 6 or 7-figure payday. This year, he has his sights set on the $1 million grand prize in the FFPC main event. Right now, he's sitting within the top 10 out of more than 4,000 entries. He resides in Belmar, New Jersey, and pretty much the karaoke king of the Jersey Shore, ladies and gentlemen. We welcome him on now. You know him as D Naughty in the FFPC, but we know him as John Donadio on the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour tonight. John, a good Friday evening to you. Thanks for hopping aboard, man.
Yes. Hey, guys. Thanks for having me.
Very excited to have you on.
I can tell loves Ezekiel Elliott right there. He's a big Zeke guy, that guy is. Right?
Ew.
All right, so here's the thing. So we have a running joke on the show, John, that two of our more famous guests, one sort of like a quasi co-host, Dave Tripoli, who loves his Eagles, Darren Armani, who lives in Philadelphia, also loves his Eagles. They love to come on and trash Ezekiel Elliott. I'm assuming we're not going to hear anything positive from you about one Ezekiel Elliott tonight.
You won't hear anything positive from me, but I will say I'm Philly sports and everything except for football. For some reason, I like the Minnesota Vikings. So,
well, how does that work? John?
Who knows? I think purple was my favorite color when I was 7, and who knows? But
you gotta love the loyalty.
Yeah,
you're not gonna be swayed.
Exactly. Let's ask you when you're not hanging out in the top 10 of the main event, John. What are you doing for a living there in New Jersey?
So I run a senior living company, a small company here in New Jersey. I've been doing that for about 20 years, and not my dream job. Wanted to be a Major League Baseball player, but that didn't pan out. So
how far did you get?
I played single A for a little bit. Yeah, within the Giants organization. Yeah, I pitched awesome. At UNC Charlotte back in the day. So
where were you in single A?
San Jose, California.
Oh, yeah. What league is that?
Yeah, Pacific Coast League.
Yeah, but that was quite a stadium that you guys.
Yeah, well, it was back in the '80s, so it was before.
Oh no, that was not quite a stadium.
Yeah.
Now,
wasn't a stadium.
The PCL, refresh my memory. Right now, that's where pitchers go to die. Right, it's like total offense.
It is. It's totally different.
Was it always? Yeah. Okay. All right. So it wasn't always like that.
It was not. No.
Got it. Okay. All right. Well, good. This is very so. Another former pro athlete joining the show tonight, Farrell.
Well, if you had hung around in your career as long as Cordarrelle Patterson did, you too might be in for accolades and awards. What a great last few years of his career it's been. And when I saw him return from injury, he inserted immediately into the lineup and did well. He had the Thursday night jinx, the Thursday night flu. It seems like it affects all these players. Based on what you've seen, and what are you going to be doing with Patterson as you move forward?
Well, I will tell you. So if coach speak is real, a lot of these coaches do say that if you have a great game the Sunday before the Thursday game, they're going to take your workload and lessen it for that Thursday game. So I should have listened to that and not put him in my lineup because I am pretty stocked at running back. But I saw that huge game he had on Sunday and wanted to roll it out on Thursday. I'm kicking myself right now. But it kind of makes sense. I guess they asked the players, you want to give it your all on Sunday, and we'll rest a little bit on Thursday. I mean, think about the Falcons. They have 3 other running backs they can go with. So kind of
makes sense, especially when you consider the age of the player.
That is true. Yeah.
So John, let me ask you this then. Knowing that that Patterson gets the mini bye and he's not in action again until Sunday, not this Sunday, but the following Sunday when the Falcons host the Chicago Bears. That's probably a little bit more appetizing. You're probably going to start him again, right?
I have no reservations about starting him again. He is their guy down by the goal line, right? He's gonna get that work. Again, I am blessed with some other great running backs there with Eckler, Kamara, and Kenneth Walker. So I don't have to force him in the lineup, but based on the matchup, I'll probably get him in there. And against the Bears, he'll probably be back in there.
Say it again. Say those running backs again.
Eckler, got him at 1.7. Then I came back with Kamara in the second round, and then 10th round is hopefully the guy that's going to take me to the promised land, Kenneth Walker.
God bless you, man! What a lineup of Congratulations.
Right. Now here's the thing. So I think that the question that I've been asking all week to anybody who would pay me any mind has been on Josh Allen. We saw that today when he found out the media and the cameras were rolling while he was practicing without a brace or a sleeve, but with his elbow taped up, took off running out of there. So he didn't talk to the media. We shall see what's going to happen with him on Sunday. Right. But FFPC owners may not have the luxury to wait around. I mean, when waivers go off Sunday morning, that's going to be your last chance to acquire a quarterback. And I think a lot of Josh Allen owners are only Josh Allen owners at quarterback, and they don't have a backup. So your thoughts here now, John, are you treating Allen as if he's missing this week? And if you are going to try to replace Allen in any of your lineups, is Case Keenum a viable pickup on Sunday morning? Would you feel okay starting him, given the supporting cast of the Bills, that he could still put up decent numbers?
Well, I will say when it pertaining to me particularly, I do have a Jared Goff as a backup, and I don't think Case Keenum would outperform him. So I'm going to stick with Goff if Allen is not playing, right? I'm obviously going to be paying close attention to that. If Allen's a go, I'm going to start him. But I do have Goff. Keenum, I think for anybody else out there, there's really not much left out there on the waiver wire. So, he's going to, they don't have much of a running game. So, again, being a Vikings fans, I know how you can beat the Vikings. So maybe Keenum is probably a good pickup for some of the guys out there.
Give me 3 quarterbacks that people will be starting that you would start Case Keenum over, or are there 3?
Wow. So,
well, we already know Goff. You would play Goff over him.
I'd play Goff over Keenum. I'd probably play Keenum over Ellinger from the Colts, right? I mean,
but nobody's going to start him. Would you play him over Carr? Would you play him over the ailing Stafford?
Maybe over Stafford because we don't know what he's got going on right now.
Yeah, for sure. Like I'm just looking at it right now. Stafford has that late game too, so I wouldn't mess around with it. Farrell, do we know I know he didn't practice Wednesday or Thursday? I suppose I should really know this, but if he didn't practice today, I don't think he's playing. Let me ask you this, John: Case Keenum or Jacoby Brissett against the Dolphins?
I like Brissett this week. I think when we get to talking into sleepers, one of my sleepers this week is going to be Peoples Jones, right? So I think that game could shoot out. I think Xavier Howard might have to shadow Amari Cooper, which would suck for me because Cooper's one of my standout wide receivers. But I think Brissett should definitely be bumped up the chart. So I have him well ahead of Keenum.
Well, let's stay in Miami and let me talk to you about this. All along with two of my favorite players. And first of all, if you have played for the San Francisco 49ers in the last 3 years, you have wonderful job security in this league. That coaching tree and its branches and its front office is rewarding these players. And I thought that I was really, really smart as my proverbial shares of Jeff Wilson and Raheem Mostert being one of my all-time favorite running backs. Their situations kept improving and improving weekly. And I began to see, hey, I've got a couple of number 2 running backs here, and I'll be damned if they don't somehow end up on the same team, which makes neither of them a number 2. And I guess both of them a number 3. Wilson, Balky and I have taken the thing, let's just wait and see about new acquisitions through this wild trading period that we're in. And a couple times that's been the right decision. A couple times we've been burnt. And I think Wilson kind of burned Mostert owners last week, out snapping Mostert. I think in this upcoming game, both backs will be needed, but nobody really cares what I think. Well, Johnny D, tell us your thoughts on Wilson and Mostert.
Well, Wilson just came in and, like you said, outsnapped him right off the get-go. So to me, the trend is going towards Wilson on that one. So again, maybe wishful thinking because he's actually one of my 5 or 6 good running backs that I have. But he's not going to see my starting lineup this week. Unfortunately, maybe I should have started him over CPAT. But I think the trend is Wilson over Mostert right now.
Yeah, hindsight's always 20/20. There's a lot of things I wish I would have done. Yeah, after I see Thursday Night Football for sure. We're talking with John Donadio, the 15th place team in the FFPC main event here to begin action in Week 10. All right, so this is now Farrell. You think the running backs were luxurious on John's roster? DK Metcalf is in your lineup right now. You have Michael Pittman on your bench. Now, your thought process here may just be like, look, Balky, I'm loaded at running back, okay? I don't have room for all these great receivers. And I guess maybe if you're not an Ellinger guy, then Pittman becomes the sit on, quite frankly, a loaded lineup here, John.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's basically more on the quarterback there. I like Pittman. He was my 3rd round pick, but I'm going to have to sit him with Ellinger as his quarterback. Well, they got a new coach now. I'm hoping this coach is a veteran guy and he wants to bring back in Matt Ryan, is giving them the best chance to win. And I think Pittman's production will go back up. But right now for this week, that game, what is it? The Germany game, right? Hopefully that's more of a shootout there with Metcalf, and I sneak him into the end zone and then maybe score some more points than Pittman. That's what I'm hoping for. Wasn't an easy decision. It's probably my toughest one, but I'm going Metcalf over Pittman.
Boy, Pittman just breaks your heart. And Pierce, I think right now becomes a no play, but there is hope, gentlemen. I don't know if you guys saw this, but actually, who's going to call the plays for Jeff Saturday? Did either of you see this? It's a young man, Parks Frazier. Parks Frazier, who Kentuckians are familiar with because he was a backup quarterback, and when called upon, he did well at Murray State University. And he's 30 years old, and he's never called plays in an NFL game, and he was the assistant quarterback coach, and he probably knows this quarterback better than anybody on that team. So, there's reason for hope. God bless him. I just love it. It's got one of the greatest stories that could possibly work. And you know what? If it's going to work against someone, it'll work against the Raiders. So, but yeah, I agree. Fortunately or unfortunately for me, some of us do not have the luxury.
I'll say this too. Parks Frazier celebrates his 31st birthday a week from Sunday too. So this maybe could be a very early birthday gift as he makes all the right calls.
Yeah. Well, he's like every damn 30-year-old. He's going to Vegas for his birthday. Okay, fellas, I tell you somebody that I would be sitting a lot of receivers for this weekend, and that is our good friend Chase Claypool. And Balky, thank you for letting me have this question. He goes up against the Detroit Lions, who, say what you will about the Detroit Lions play. Those defensive backs, I see them make some good plays. And then you see the one play and you go, what happened? And it's in time, it will come. And there's been coaching changes on both sides of the ball in Detroit. And, they're trying to work it out. I don't think they're going to work it out against the Chicago team, which is emerging against a quarterback that's going to get it. John D., for future and especially for Sunday, how do you see Claypool fitting in? I know there were like 27 snaps last week, but I think they were quality snaps, and I think more is
27 snaps for a guy that just came onto the team is impressive to me. So I got to think he's going to be trending upward.
And he got 6 targets on those 27 snaps too, so they want to use him.
They do want to use him. Mooney had a good game, so he's not going anywhere as well. But what they give up? A second-round pick for Claypool, so correct. They have to get him involved. I hope he does well this week. Not too well because I don't have him in my lineup. He's one of the guys I have on my team that's on the bench. But
Jesus, how many? Do they let you draft twice in each?
Embarrassment of riches. I know.
Is there some rule that's going on with you out here that I'm not aware of?
Yeah, you need the depth in this league here. I'm going for that million. So
the Bears.
My girlfriend to a World Series game. She's a big Phillies fan as well, but she's an Eagles fan, so I got to get her to the Super Bowl.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
So I need that.
Perhaps the John Donadio was also the recipient of an extra second-round pick, much like the Pittsburgh Steelers were.
Yeah,
Chase Claypool.
He's getting compensatory picks from somewhere, and I don't know what's going on. All
right, so let's talk about speaking of receivers. Let's talk about the Titans here. So Robert Woods sort of becoming an afterthought with Malik Willis at quarterback. In the Titans offense. Treylon Burks is due to come back. I think there's a possibility he comes back this Sunday. Why is there a good reason, if there is at all, to keep Robert Woods rostered on high stakes leagues right now for you, John?
Well, again, just for depth, I guess. Nothing more than a wide receiver 5 or 6 at this point. Maybe use him for a bye week or an injury here and there, but. We know at this time of the year starts Derrick Henry season, right? I mean, he's going to be plowing his way through the defenses. He usually gets that going in mid-November. So I don't see Woods being too big in the plans there with Burks coming in. So, hold on to him as depth, but that's about it. You're not going to play him much.
The Burks-Woods combo is near and dear to Balky, myself, and Dave Turp. I'm so glad to know Burks is coming back because there's some sort of guilty pangs. I was worried that Woods would eclipse Burks in this head-to-head race while, we were busy with Woods on the field and Burks on IR. And my conscience is not as guilty as I thought it would be. Let's just put it that way. Wonderful Wan'Dale Robinson, Kentucky's gift to the NFL. Wan'Dale, I expected more. I expected him to play on a team that would not be successful. Now I'm glad to see that with what we are getting with Wan'Dale on the field, that it's quality targets, quality snaps. Your thoughts about this player moving into the end of the season? He's no longer what when you get to double-digit games in your rookie year, you're no longer a rookie. And this guy's getting there. And I think he has unlimited skills. His quarterback skillful enough to get the ball to him. They lost a marvelous tight end there in New York. A variety of reasons why Robinson should do well. Is he going to, Johnny B?
Well, this week, obviously, it's going to be a Barkley game, right? We're going up against Houston, so the way to beat them is with the run. But again, Balky doesn't like to talk about Thursday games, but Thursday we saw Goddard get a lot of action against Houston last Thursday, right? So the Giants don't have that luxury. They don't have a Goddard, right? Their stud tight end Bellinger just went down. So maybe Robinson steps up and gets all those targets. So I do think he's going to have a good game. The Vegas line on that game seems a little off to me. It seems a little bit low. I thought the Giants would be at least a 7-point favorite, but they're only about a 4.5. So Vegas thinks it's going to be close. Maybe they're thinking Houston's going to try to shut down Barkley and open it up for Robinson. Mm-hmm. So if I had him as a flex, I wouldn't be against that, right? So I think he's going to have a decent game, and then going forward, I think he's going to be their main wide receiver. So he's okay.
Yeah. And I think you're right, and I like him down the stretch this year. I mean, there's a reason that I hung on to him, and many FFPC players and KFFSC players have hung on to him as long as they did, waiting for him to get healthy. And now we're starting to see the fruits of the labor there coming into fruition, that Wan'Dale Robinson is probably going to, and Kenny Galladay is probably coming back this week. I'm not worried about Galladay at all, man. This is Robinson's season, and I'm excited for it. And I'm very excited to see what he's able to bring to the table for high stakes players and players like myself going forward. A couple of emails here for you, John. Freddie in Detroit. Hey, John, James Conner or Gerald Everett in a football guys league this week? Great season so far, man. That is Freddie in Detroit. Now, interestingly enough,
that's a tough one, Johnny D.
Both these guys are 425 players. Connor, I don't believe he might be questionable, but I definitely know he's not a game time decision this week. But this is interesting.
He's off. He's off the injury.
Off the injury report. Okay, so there you go.
In a while, so I'm definitely going to go with Connor there. He's it, right? He is the guy. He just gets the ball near the goal line. I love guys like that, right? So he's going to be anything close. He's going to be getting those touchdowns. So yes, we do know that the Chargers don't have much to throw to anymore. So Everett's going to have a decent game, but Connor's the guy you want in that situation.
The situation that I'm looking at here for the Cardinals game, they are 3-point dogs in Los Angeles. The Chargers are going to be, where are they on my list here as I scroll through? And I can't find them, which is normal for this show. They're at San Francisco. They're getting 7 in a 45.5 total game. So I get what you're saying too. And like, I get questions like this all the time. Like, and I always usually say when it's close like this, go with the guy with the volume. And I would imagine that James Conner is going to touch the football more than Gerald Everett on Sunday. Farrell, let me throw this question to you. Tight end premium league, would you still be able to feel good about starting Conner over Everett?
Well, I'm an Everett guy in this situation. It's very important that everyone listen to me because, John in the main event is 15th. I'm 2,000 from 400th right now. And it's very important. But I can see that logic of Conner, and I think it is due to my naivete and inexperience with Conner as a player. I do very much like Everett in this game. If you look, and Johnny D knows this because we're big Eckler guys, but Eckler's been doing it through the air, and and so has Everett, and so I don't know. Benjamin, I like the way he runs the ball. I just have a lot of questions with the problem with Murray. I just have a lot of questions about what will be going on down there at the desert, and despite the head coach with the Chargers and some of his clock management and decisions on the field, I seem to like that team a little better. But I would probably defer to the current 15th placeholder in the FFPC.
Hard to argue.
Touched on a key point there with Murray's leg injury, so he's not going to run. So there's a little bit more running for Conner to come his way. So
great point.
That pushes it more towards him as well.
Other email we have here for you, John. Alan Albuquerque. How about that? Al Albuquerque. I think he used to be a relief pitcher for the second of that. There you go. Maybe it's him. I don't know. What's up, John? Am I crazy to want to play Zay Jones over Najee Harris this week? On the surface, I would say yes, you're crazy. Then I look at it. Okay, Zay Jones going to Kansas City, where there's significant dogs in a game with a total over 50. versus Najee Harris, who's losing snaps to Jalen Warren, who's going to be going up against the Saints at home in a game that's barely topping 40 as a total. I think the correct answer here is you are not crazy. But the real question should be, should he be starting Zay Jones over Najee Harris this week, John?
Wow, you know what? I don't have them near each other in my flexes. I have Najee ahead of him, so
Okay.
I might have to look a little bit more close at that, because you are right. He is losing snaps to Jalen Warren,
and he never catches anything.
Yeah. So I don't know. I have to look at that one a little bit more close myself, but I still think, I mean, Najee Harris is the guy right now, so let's give him the ball. Let's stick with him.
Yeah.
You know, and this is the danger. You know, Dave the Dizzle Gerzak, former co-host of the show, always pointed out he never liked Michael Turner because they always viewed Michael Turner as an accumulator back, where he gets all this volume and he turns it into something. But if he doesn't get those touches, he doesn't. It's not a worthwhile second round pick or third round pick or whatever Turner was back in the day. And I was talking with Josh Hayes from Rotoballer on the High Stakes Fantasy Football Show on BSN on Wednesday. And I don't think he brought this up himself. I think he got this from somebody else. But he said if you compare the career of Najee Harris over his first year and a half to another Cleveland running back named Trent Richardson over his first year and a half, there are some similarities there, which is alarming. I think it's too early to start hitting the panic button. But let's just say my fingers are inching towards it in Dynasty, where I have Najee Harris right now. That is how I feel about it. Farrell, I'm out of emails for John, so we just have one final question for him.
John, you've teased us with one of your sleepers, which I don't know. I don't feel comfortable letting you use that player as a sleeper that you talked about at wide receiver. But if you don't have another one in line, I'm going to let you do it. However, I got to hear who's going to bust. Since you obviously have no bust ever in your lineup, this could be the more difficult question for you. But nevertheless, John, congratulations on your success this year. You put together a wonderful team. And although we tease about you having extra draft picks, anybody with your foresight and skills could have made those picks. They just don't have your foresight and skills. So good job. So please tell us the bust we should keep on the bench. And give us a real sleeper. I mean, I threw out Keelan Cole. You can't use him, but that's a sleeper. Okay, carry on.
Yeah, I would say, and I really have no other reason to say this other than probably just a conviction, just to not reward the guy for being such a baby. Brandon Cooks. Let's keep him on the bench, right? I mean, they're probably going to need him.
To be.
Well, they're probably going to need him, but I don't know. I don't want to reward the guy for being such a baby.
And I'll tell you this, it's not like he's been rewarding fantasy owners. He has not had more against targets, but he hasn't had more than 6 targets since week 4. We're heading into week 10. So it used to be the whole thing with Cooks is like, he's quarterback proof, he's OC proof, he's offense proof, he's head coach proof, he's team proof, he's all this proof because he always put numbers up wherever he was, New Orleans, Los Angeles, New England. He always put up numbers. And I think there is a warm, fuzzy feeling that you had when you drafted Cooks as your 3rd or 4th receiver because you knew it's not going to be an MVP candidate, but he's going to put up numbers, and he hasn't been doing that this year. Right. And I think to say, listen, I'm feeling a little skittish about starting him, and let's keep him on the bench this week. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And knowing you, John, you probably have all these different players that you can play ahead of him anyway. But the thing is with Cooks, it's like, the warm, fuzzy feeling that you had on draft day, we're living in a different universe right now. And to sit Cooks, I makes sense to me.
Good. Yeah. And you saw Houston stay tough with the Eagles with Damian Pierce without Cooks. So maybe this is Pierce's time to shine. So
could be.
At least for one half.
Right.
Yeah.
What about a sleeper for us, John?
Okay. So, I said Donovan Peoples-Jones.
All right, hold on. Actually, let me stop you right there. Let's do one more email here because I know you said Donovan Peoples-Jones. Let's put it in tangible terms here. This is from Billy in North Hollywood, California. Here's something I thought I'd never email you before the start of the season. Donovan Peoples-Jones in Miami or Allen Robinson hosting the Cardinals. Thank you. And thank you for listening, Billy in North Hollywood, California. Is Peoples-Jones starting for you over Allen Robinson this week, John?
Yeah, for a few reasons. One of them being Stafford's questionability there with the Rams. So, and just looking for a shootout there in Miami. So I think if Xavier Howard's on my man Cooper, Peoples-Jones is going to get at least 2 big looks for a bomb and probably hit one of them. So,
and you know what? He's yet to score a touchdown this year. So Johnny Dale, I kind of like that element because I kind of like that element that he's a sleeper touchdown scorer. So I am now allowing that to be your answer.
Give me a shout out next week if it happens here.
We will.
Right here.
Just real quick. 49.5 is the total on that Browns Dolphins game. So you can be on with that shootout type thing, John.
Yeah. That's it. I guess one more sleeper would be Mac Hollins. I think I heard you guys talking about him earlier, but it's not much left there with the Raiders. They have Devontae Adams, but I think Hollins is going to get some work.
And you think about too. I mean, no Jacoby Myers, no Garrett Wilson this week because of buys. The Jamar Chase is already going to be out with injury, but no T Higgins, no Tyler Boyd. Rashad Bateman's out for the year, so you won't have him. So there are some issues at receiver this week too. And if you're looking for help, Mac Hollins, Donovan Peoples-Jones certainly would help. And a guy who's always certainly a help to all of us in setting our lineups is the 15th place team in the FFPC main event, John Donadio, who's creeped up in the top 10 after last night's action. John, appreciate you spending your Friday night with us. Good luck the rest of the way. Hopefully you can get you said it was your girlfriend's team was the Eagles, right?
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay. So
either her or the Vikings. Vikings or Eagles. Either one of them. We're going to Arizona. So.
Vikings and Eagles in the NFC Championship, and it's going to be a happy Super Bowl for you guys.
There you go. That's what we're looking for.
Thank you, John. I appreciate it, dude.
Thank you, guys. Great time. Take care.
You got it. John Donadio, the 15th place team in the FFPC main event, looking down at more teams since after last night, he's a little bit higher than that. We'll see how that happens over the course of the rest of week 10. But great to talk to him. Good insight. And I think the thing we need to figure out is how do you get extra draft picks in the main event next year?
That's compensatory picks. Something's happening there. I don't think it's nefarious in any way. I just think that he's drafting against some guys and he's putting some sort of weird Philly mojo on these guys, and
so Farrell, I want to do this right now, and this is probably something I should do before the start of every interview. But I do want to take a look at John's 15th place roster here that he has.
And we were teasing about it, but in all seriousness, he doesn't really know who a sleeper is because he's never had to have one.
Right.
The guys he's not playing are everybody's else number 2 and 3 receivers.
Right.
He's talking about Mac Hollins. Well, I started Mac Hollins 3 weeks in a row. I also started him when he scored 30 points. And I will say this. When I was forced into a situation this year in the spring in one of the never too earlies of drafting Case Keenum as one of my 3 quarterbacks because I was pushed around in there by other drafters taking all the quarterbacks. So finally, I said it. He would start before the year. Here we are in week 10. I have Case Keenum going to lead my team in the never too early to victory.
So you already mentioned he has Josh Allen at quarterback, Jared Goff. If Allen can't go, he'll play Goff. But the running backs are filthy. Kenneth Walker, the Magic Cord, Cordero Patterson, Alvin Kamara, Austin Eckler, Jeff Wilson. Khalil Herbert is his number 6, which is pretty filthy. So the receivers too. I mean, Amari Cooper, DK Metcalf, Michael Pittman, Chase Claypool, Tyler Boyd, and then for good measure, Odell Beckham for when he's playing for $1 million in week 17. That will help. You say, he must have not drafted a good tight end. No, his tight end went 10 for 90 last week. It's TJ Hawkinson. He's also got Dawson Knox behind him. And the Bills defense, who has been pretty awesome all season.
That's his weak point because it's been feast or famine with Hawkinson. He's had 2 weeks of feast, and that's helped him in the overall. Dawson Knox has not been a fantasy contributor this year, although a hell of an NFL player. And he's benefited from the fact that some injuries have gone his way, and it appears that the only thing that hasn't gone his way has been what's going on in Indianapolis, which has an opportunity to cure itself from at least from a fantasy perspective with Pittman this week. So I like what he did. It appears he went earlier on running backs and then took value at receivers, and every receiver he took are guys that I really like, and he's probably been playing them at the right time. And now is the right time to play Boyd.
He started off as he was in the 7th spot in his draft. Eckler and Kamara, so went running back. Got Pittman, as he said, in the 3rd round. Josh Allen is who he took in the 4th.
Yep.
DK Metcalf, and then Hockenson in the 6th. So he had his quarterback and his tight end in the 4th and 6th. Then he went Cooper. He went with Dawson Knox in the 8th to try to double up. It obviously has not worked out with that Knox pick. But then Patterson and Kenneth Walker in the 9th and 10th. Boom and boom. Tyler Boyd and Chase Claypool in the 11th and 12th. He gets Herbert in the 13th as well. So clearly, it was a very strong draft for John Donadio, no question at all.
He took the value almost in every draft round.
Yeah. Which is what you need to do. If the fantasy owners in your draft are going to give – Dave Turp said that. He's like, it's only value if you take advantage of it. Otherwise,
it's really – if you didn't do it when you drafted your first team, draft more teams.
Exactly. Practice makes perfect.
Yeah.
Jason in Wilmington, North Carolina is our next emailer. Which road quarterback should I roll with this week, Farrell? Kirk Cousins in Buffalo or Trevor Lawrence in Kansas City? Thanks, guys. That's Jason in Wilmington, North Carolina. Now, both of these guys should have positive game scripts as I look at now. I think both of these games are right around 50. Jags and Chiefs, 51.5. The Jags are getting 9.5 in that game. The Vikings and Bills, that's only 42.5. Vikings only getting 3. I think I might like Lawrence here over Cousins.
No, I don't think you do.
No?
Well, Lawrence has had his issues, and this game is at the Chiefs, which is a difficult place to play. The defense is coming together. The pass rush is coming together. Lawrence has looked confused for a long, long time. He bounced back a little bit in this last game. Kirk is just a fantastic receiver. Etienne will be involved. I really, really like Cousins.
Okay. Even though it's on the road against Buffalo.
Yeah, I like Cousins to step up in a game that Minnesota has to prove that they're a contender, that their record so far is real. They get into some games. They want to invite the competition to come back in. I think the Bills will score. It'll be a chase position for Cousins, and I think he'll answer the bell. And I really, really, we talked about it. I love what Hockenson brings to this team. Everybody says that this offense didn't utilize a tight end, and I argued that they didn't have a real stud tight end to utilize, and now they have one. I like Cousins here. I like the veteran presence versus – I just think it was an awful October for Trevor, and I'm not going to say that snake has been removed from his pocket.
Okay, all right, I get it. I mean, it's close for me, and I hear what you're saying for sure. And listen, maybe the tiebreaker should be the weapons here. Like Trevor Lawrence is throwing to Christian Kirk, who's been great. But then like Evan Engram, and then who's the other guy there? The Joneses, right? Keeping up with the Joneses, Zay and Marvin. You have Thielen, Justin Jefferson, best receiver in football, and TJ Hockenson. I guess maybe the smart money is to go with the guy who has the better weapons there.
A running back can catch a few passes.
And Dalvin Cook can catch passes. Travis Etienne can too. We shall see on how this turns out. Chris in Columbus, Ohio. Who's my guy this week? Antonio Gibson in Philadelphia on Monday night or Kareem Hunt in South Beach? Yeah. What about Gibson on Monday Night Football against those undefeated Eagles? This is a game that has a big-time negative game script for Gibson, although he's been catching passes. But the Commanders are getting 10.5. Total's only 43.5. Farrell, I don't know about you, but it just seems like Kareem Hunt, he just hasn't been used as much as he was at the start of the season. And I think that Gibson is trending upwards. The Antonio Gibson roller coaster ride this year of, he's the man. Now they drafted Robinson. Now Robinson's shot. Okay, now Gibson is stinking it up and can't hold on to the football. Okay, now Robinson's not really crushing it, and Gibson's been the guy. It's been crazy this year. I think we're crescendoing here. I think I'm going to go with Gibson here in this game over Kareem Hunt.
I love your decision, and you've been a champion of this player for some time now. We had no one on the podcast that would join us and ever take up this,
Right.
the flag for this player, and that's why he was 11th or 12th. Did we establish that by the time we got to Las Vegas? 11th and 12th.
Yeah.
But now each of them, if you look statistically, each of them have just topped about 300 yards. So, but the momentum is in the favor of Gibson. And gosh, Hunt is a skillful runner. But I'm looking for a player. Maybe I'm looking for a situation with more will than skill. And I think Gibson has the will. I think there's something going on here with this young quarterback. He's exciting. He raises the level of the team. He can only raise them. There is a ceiling there. He can only raise them so high. This is a big Monday night game, interdivisional game. Let's roll with Gibson because I have appreciation of that Dolphin defense as well. Let's roll with Gibson.
Rolling with Gibson is what we're going to tell Chris in Columbus to do. What will we tell Tyler in Las Vegas to do? He's got a tight end decision. Noah Fant or Juwan Johnson, fellas. Thank you for the email and for watching, Tyler. We certainly appreciate it. Now, I had to roll with Juwan Johnson in a couple of leagues last week where Mark Andrews, I was trying to, wait it out as long as I could. And then by the time I knew the waivers were already done and Juwan Johnson was the guy I picked up and who was playing against the Ravens on Monday Night Football.
Yeah.
And you look on the surface like, he had a decent game, like 2 for 42 and a touchdown. Okay. Double digits. Sure. Well, that late touchdown was kind of I don't want to say garbage, but it was just kind of a whatever. And he had one
fantastic physical play of balance and speed.
Okay. Yes. He looked very athletic on it. But my point is he had 2 catches in the game. Then you have to consider that he this week, Juwan Johnson is taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers in a game. Not that I know I've been dwelling on the totals a lot this week.
You sure have.
But just over 40, whereas you can have Noah Fant going up against the Buccaneers in a game that has a total of 44.5. Seattle's getting 2.5, and Fant went 5 for 96 last week. Maybe it's recency bias, but I'm going to play Fant over Johnson.
Okay, yeah, and I think you should. What is happening in Seattle? A lot of very, very good things. Mm-hmm. I may just have to stay up all night for that game to make sure that I'm there for kickoff. Mornings are difficult for me. But the tight end position, I think we established this earlier on the show. I think it was this show we talked about it. It had to be this show on the FFPC network because I've yet to participate in a RotoViz show. But nevertheless, the 50-plus catches from 3 tight ends. But after a while, cream rises to the top. And Fant is the best of good contributing tight ends. I like the other 2 guys too, but Fant is the best. He's beginning to click with this quarterback, Geno Smith.
Yeah.
And when you take what both receivers are doing with Lockett and Metcalf, how good the running game is, there's too much going on there to defend these multiple tight end sets because when Fant is catching the ball, he's catching it with the other tight ends on the field. They run 3 tight end sets over 30% of the time. So, and hey, one spring, a year and a half ago, we had a tutorial on Shane Waldron, and we said, well, hey, this is Shane's big chance. He's going to run this offense. He's come up the hard way. He's coached at every level there possibly is. He's going to put together an offense on the field that we're going to love. And now he's finally got it. So, yes, if you can get in business with him, because all those other Seattle Seahawks are gone, and Geno was picked up off the waiver wire. If you can get in business with Fant and you've got him on your roster, get him on the field.
And enjoy a beer and perhaps a brat or some sort of sausage and watch Noah Fant crush it in Munich, Germany on Sunday morning. Maybe not Farrell. I don't know. I hope you're up.
I'll be up. I'll be awake.
Right.
I'm just not sure how I'm going to get there yet.
Okay. Well, we're glad you got here on the show tonight. It's a pleasure as always. We will do this again next Friday, and I will let you know about a special episode that I'm still yet to book this week, but I'll keep you in mind for that and see if we can make it happen.
Well, yeah, I'll have you call my agent. I'll send over his number and see if you can get something worked.
My people will contact your people.
You have a lot of great guests on that show, and I think I think all those shows, it's best to hear from the players.
Mhm.
Our time on Friday evening is most special to me, so I don't want to ruin that with other appearances. I want to be here in support of you. And this guy that emailed us from Las Vegas,
Tyler.
he should get on. He should get on one of the ticket services and buy tickets to the Raider Colts games from one of the disaffected Colts fans who bought those tickets and is now selling his.
Yeah.
So that's our other advice that we can have for him. And wasn't our guest great tonight? I mean,
John Donadio, he's the man. Yeah, tremendous stuff. You know, we'll have a bevy of guests next week on all the FFPC shows for sure. Farrell, if you're not joining me or if you can't join me on any of those other ones, we will for sure do this on Friday at 10.
Well, and try to find out why the professor was late, and try to find out why he's talking about baseball.
He was talking about baseball because John had that Phillies jersey on.
That's no reason. John just needed a shirt. What the hell is he doing here talking about baseball?
Any reason to praise Hudson's Astros, he's going to do it for sure.
I see. They're from Texas. I got you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Balky.
Be good, Farrell. Talk to you again on Friday, dude. Farrell Elliott, ladies and gentlemen, the definitive commissioner of fantasy football. Check out his Kentucky Fantasy Football State Championship at kffsc.com. I want to thank John Donadio. I want to thank Farrell. I want to thank the FFPC, Rob Bryce, and, of course, each and every one of you for listening / watching / streaming / downloading. We will be back. This show will return at 10/9 Central this coming Friday. The fifth place football guys team owner, Rob Sussman, will be our guest at 10/9 Central on Friday. I'm still working on, because I'm actually out of town the Thanksgiving week, all week, so we won't have any shows that week. So I'm trying to do an extra HSFF hour coming up next week as well. We'll keep you posted. Follow the show at HSFF hour on Twitter, and we'll keep you abreast of when that is going to be coming on. I also want to remind you that you should watch the RotoViz High Stakes Lowdown with Stephen Rannigan. That was Tuesday night, and a lot of great stuff that he had to say for sure on that show. So check that out, rotoviz.com/podcast, or watch the replay here on the FFPC YouTube channel. The RotoViz High Stakes Lowdown has 2 episodes this coming week. On Monday night, the 28th place team owner in the Football Guys Players Championship, Mr. Pink Stripes himself, Mr. Eric Sisson, will be joining me at 7/6 Central. So prior to the Eagles and Commanders, you can get everything. You can fuel up your football appetite for that game with Eric Sisson on the High Stakes Lowdown. And then Tuesday night, the following night, at the normal 10/9 Central time, the 14th place team owner in the FFPC main event, Rob Abbott, will be joining us on the HSLD. The High Stakes Fantasy Football Show will still air on the Better Sports Network. It goes live, as it does every Wednesday at 10/9 Central on the Better Sports Network app, as well as Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. And it's going to be yours truly and Football Guys' esteemed lawyer, Drew Davenport, will co-host the show with me on Wednesday night. Going to be a lot of fun to talk with him. I think the Alvin Kamara case will probably come up at least a couple of times. So that is on Wednesday at 10/9 Central. Play the FFPC Weekly Challenge. No draft or salary cap. Play the slim version with 10 players. Play the classic version with kickers and defenses with 12 players. Only 1 player per NFL team. $35 to enter, or $200 if you want to try to play against 9 other people and try to win a FFPC main event entry for 2023. You can certainly do that at myffpc.com. Remember to like, share, subscribe, comment, and get notified. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, your weekend officially starts now.
This has been another episode of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by myffpc.com. It was broadcast live and was watched around the world. Balky and Farrell will be back next week with more analysis, more interviews, and more advice from guests much smarter than they are. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk with you again next week.
Hey, one other thing I want to mention before we bid you off into that good night for Week 10 fantasy football. Happy Veterans Day. It is a Veterans Day today, obviously. I know maybe if you forgot about it, didn't realize it, what have you, make sure that at some point this weekend you go out and you shake a vet's hand, give him a hug or her a hug, tell him or her that their contribution does not go unnoticed, and the fact that we can do shows like this and play fantasy football, it thanks in part to them for giving us the freedom to be able to do that. So happy Veterans Day to all the veterans out there, whether you're serving currently or have served. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Remember, 9:30 a.m. kickoff from Munich. Get those lineups in Saturday night or early Sunday morning, everybody. Thanks so much for watching.